Commanders hire Dan Quinn to match with their new general manager, Adam Peters, to lead this franchise into the future.
The way that we live is not for everybody, okay? It's not, all right? Because we're going to run and put our bodies on people in a violent manner.
Whether the team is giving us the highest of highs or the bluest of blue, we'll cover it all here on Commanders Nightly News. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So apparently the Washington Commanders are becoming hamstrung at the absolute worst time of the season. And I say that both literally and figuratively. We have 3 guys on the injury report, all due to hamstrings, none of which I feel are going to play this week. And they're all critical guys, 2 in particular, to what this team wants to do. And one has been gaining confidence since the bye week, and Jordan McGee. So those 3 players are Dyami Brown, obviously at the wide receiver position. And I think that coincides with the move that was made today. The Commanders added wide receiver Chris Moore to the practice squad. So that is an indication to me that they view Dyami Brown's injury as one that will sideline him. I won't necessarily say for a significant period of time, but it is going to sideline him nonetheless. And I do think that KJ Osborne is now going to have to step into a role, whether that be the 4th or 3rd, 4th, or 5th receiver, whatever that looks like. But he's going to be active for the first time since being claimed off waivers. And they need bodies to help them perform at practice. So you add in a guy like Chris Moore because, again, you're losing KJ Osborne as a guy that can help you at practice because he's now going to have to start running with the ones and getting starter reps now. So that's a very impactful injury. Dyami had a really good deep ball last week, and I talked about his ability to stretch the football field vertically opposite of Terry. There's no one else on the team that can. There's no other player on this roster currently that can stretch the football field vertically opposite of Terry with no Dyami Brown. That hurts. Now Marshawn Lattimore is out with the hamstring again. And the hope is it's not as significant nor severe as the one that he got when he was traded to Washington. But we don't know. We'll hear from DQ. And he'll give us a sense. Like, DQ hasn't lied to me all year. He'll give me a sense of the significance of this hamstring injury when he meets with the media on Friday. And if DQ says, it could be a while, and we're just going to kind of see how this thing progresses, then he's not going to play probably for the rest of the regular season, and he may not even be ready for the playoff game if we make it to the playoffs. When we make it to the playoffs, speak that into existence. But if DQ's like, hey, we don't want to push it, but we like the progress that's being made with that, and we think he could be continuing through that process. We're not going to miss a step. He's going to say all of that good stuff. But if he sounds more encouraging, like he did with Jonathan Allen, and you can always tell when a guy's turning a corner when he's getting close to playing, because DQ will kind of give you all of the clues as to, hey, this guy's getting close. If you hear that kind of speech, like, hey, we felt like he was doing some good things, but we didn't want to push him too much, and we didn't think it was like we heard that with Zane Gonzalez last week before the Eagles game, right? Like the week prior, hey, he thought he could go, but we didn't want to push it. We just felt like, hey, no need to push him a little bit further than need be. Held him out, but he almost went. If you hear something like that, then Lattimore could be a lot closer, right? It might not be as significant a hamstring, but anything's possible with that situation. I'm not too happy about that because now you're going to see Benjamin St-Juste. It's the thing we've been running from, and now he's back. It was a short reprieve. 2 whole games we got to play without this guy on the field pretty much. Sans for, a handful of plays in each of those games, but he's back. I hope you're ready. I'm sure as hell not. And then Jordan McGee, if you watched the last episode of Commanders Nightly News, I talked about him on film, right? Just standing out, man, really being physical, being used as a blitzer and just really making his presence felt on defense, on special teams, and just as he was coming along and really starting to carve out a niche for himself down the stretch of this rookie season of his, boom, he's got a hamstring, and he could be out for the foreseeable future. So that sucks because not only do you have to replace him on special teams, you also have to now put Michael Walker back on the field defensively, and I'm not a big fan of that. If at all possible, I'd like to keep him off the field, but you can do a hell of a lot worse than Michael Walker at linebacker, but you can do a hell of a lot better. And to me, Jordan McGee was a hell of a lot better, but that's nor here nor there. So all of these guys are dealing with hamstring injuries, not to mention Andrew Wiley dealing with a groin, among other injuries. He's dealing with a couple of ailments, but none of these guys practice today. None of these guys feel like they're trending towards playing on Sunday. I don't have confidence in any of them lacing it up Sunday night against the Atlanta Falcons. Clearly our biggest game of the season to date. And we will be without a few guys, man. And, these hamstrings, I told you, it's a soft tissue injury. It's the worst type of injury to have that's not a long-term injury because, again, you can't look at an MRI or an X-ray and determine the severity of it. I mean, you could say, hey, it's a grade 1 or a grade 2, hamstring strain, but at the end of the day, it's not like it's a swollen ankle and you go, hey, we can look at it and see if it's healing or not. It's a hamstring. You just got to go by how the player feels. And so it's tough. It's like straining a calf muscle or something, or, something that's soft tissue. You don't really know how long it's going to be. So here we are, critical juncture of our season. And we're talking about guys being down potentially for weeks here. We may get some guys back. And we've gotten some good injury updates here of late. Austin Eckler, Jonathan Allen, etc. But here comes some, not so great news. So 3 guys all dealing with hamstrings. Probably not going to be able to help us this week. Probably won't be able to help us next week either. And the hope is that these guys can return for a wild card weekend game, assuming that the Commanders clinch their playoff berth. You'll feel a lot more at ease if they win on Sunday against the Falcons, clinch the playoff berth. You don't need any of those guys in Week 18 versus Dallas. And then you just hope like hell they can all be back, and this team can be almost at full strength come wild card weekend against whomever the opponent is. Whether we get to the 6th seed, we remain 7, and we play Philadelphia, or you get to the 6th seed and you're staring at the Los Angeles Rams or whomever, right? All of that remains to be seen, but got to get in first. That's the goal. But these hamstring injuries have us hamstrung as of right now. As we transition to in other news, as I mentioned, we made a roster move today with Chris Moore, wide receiver, being added to the practice squad, which I think is a sign that KJ Osborne is going to be a bigger part of the offense, because that means De'Ami Brown is somewhat banged up. I wonder what they did in conjunction with that. Did we have an open practice squad spot? Not 100% sure about that, but in any event, it's not a big deal, right? We're talking about a practice squad guy. So I just think that is a sign that De'Ami Brown is going to be out for a little while. That's what I think that means, more so than anything else. We heard from both coordinators today. Offensive coordinator Kliff Kingsbury and defensive coordinator Joe Whitt Jr. We'll talk about what was said there. Joe Whitt's was very short today, just a shade over 5 minutes. Meanwhile, Kliff Kingsbury in his normal spot, roughly 8 and some change. We'll talk about what was said. Kliff was in a very jovial, holiday, cheery mood today. So we'll talk about what he had to say and get to all of the good particulars there. But before we do that, let's go ahead and get to, oh, you know what? I forgot. I got some tickets to give away. Don't want to wait too late to do that. So I guess today's as good a time as any to start giving that away. So the hashtag, I'm going to type this in here so you can see it. Let's go with hashtag do them dirty. That is the hashtag that we are gonna go with. Do them dirty. Let's do these birds dirty. All right, let's do them dirty. I could have went with something playoff themed, trying to clinch a playoff spot, but if we do them dirty, we'll do all of that in the process. Right? Let's do them dirty. They got a young fellow, making his first career start on the primetime stage. Let's do them dirty. All right, let's send these birds home cooked, just like we did the Philadelphia Eagles, man. Let's do them dirty. So we're giving away some tickets. Here's your opportunity to get in on the drawing. If you're a part of the MOBB, you know what it is. Use the hashtag DoEmDirty to throw your name in the drawing to get those tickets. Duo, D-O-M-E-M, dirty. Do 'em dirty. All right. So let's get to the injury report for both teams heading into Week 17 Sunday Night Football Showdown. Starting first, of course, with the good guys. So this is not a great injury report, as I mentioned already. Lots of DNPs. De'Ami Brown, hamstring. Talked about that at the top. Zach Ertz, full. Again, he gets the rest on Wednesdays normally. Same with Cleveland Farrell, and usually they practice the remainder of the week. So nothing there to see. Farrell, as I mentioned, was out on Tuesday, but able to practice on a limited basis Thursday. Marshawn Lattimore, as I mentioned at the top of the show, hamstring, did not practice for a second day this week. Jordan McGee, same thing, hamstring, didn't practice for the second time this week. Terry, ankle limited, that's a little bit dicey there. But again, Terry's a warrior. I don't ever think about Terry missing a game. I just don't. So I think this is more precautionary than anything else, but you always want to be, careful. He wasn't on the injury report before, right? So this is all the more reason why it is imperative that we win this game. I can't stress this enough. You don't have De'Ami, you don't have Marshawn, you don't have McGee, you don't want that Week 18 game having a lot riding on it. Terry's dealing with an ankle clearly. You don't want to have to put him out there Week 18. You want all these guys rested and ready to go in Wild Card Weekend. And clearly Terry's got an ankle, right? It's not like a massive thing, but if he can get some extra rest heading into the postseason, wouldn't you want him to do that, right? Tyler Owens, same thing, ankle. He didn't practice today. Second time this week, he didn't practice. He was the special teams player of the week for us this week, with 5-6 tackles on special teams. He was everywhere. He makes a difference. Andrew Wiley, as I mentioned at the top of the show, dealing with a groin. He missed practice for the second time this week. So all signs point to Corn Lucas getting the start over on right side, which I don't think most of us mind, but it's just the depth of the line then being put in a perilous state. So again, another guy that could use the rest if we don't have to have the Week 18 game versus the Cowboys. Jonathan Allen, I think he's going to play. I've been adamant about this. He full participant today. I think he's gearing up to go on Sunday. I saw him talking to the media members, and he says he's preparing as if he's going to play on Sunday. So I think he's trending in the right direction. Joe Whitt Jr. talked about him potentially coming back and saying he'll probably be on a pitch count should he be available, but that'll be determined by the doctors and where, how they think he should be able to be deployed. Dante Fowler Jr. full, and then Marcus Mariota, for personal reasons, wasn't at practice. So I don't think that's much to do about anything there, but just worth noting. All right, so you go from the good guys to the ops. And I said this yesterday or a couple of days ago on the show. This is a non-threatening injury report, so there's really nothing here to see. I'll just touch on the two DMPs, Kevin King and Antonio Hamilton. Did not practice on Tuesday, didn't practice today. Those two are trending, much like our guys with the hamstrings, are trending towards being out. I will say that Drake London being on this thing limited with the knee is something to keep an eye on, but he's going to play. He's been dealing with various ailments all season long, and he always plays. So Drake London will be out there. I have no doubts in my mind about that. It's a big game for Atlanta. He's not missing this game. So there's really nothing to see here other than the two guys in the secondary for the Atlanta Falcons. So, you get to the press conferences. Once again, if you want to be entered into the drawing to win 2 tickets to the Falcons Sunday night contest versus the Commanders, make sure you use the hashtag do 'em dirty. Do 'em dirty is what we rolling with. So we heard from both coordinators today, Joe Whitt Jr. and Kliff Kingsbury. We'll start with Kliff Kingsbury and what he had to say. Kliff, like I said, was pretty. He was pretty funny today. It just really in a good mood. When it's all said and done, Kliff was in a really good mood today. And it was funny to see him as excited as he was. But, coming off the type of game that he did, I don't blame him for being, super excited about what he was able to do and how he was able to lead this team. I want to give a quick shout out to my guy, Phil Ricards, for donating those 2 tickets that we'll be giving away this week to the Falcons game to the MOBB. Phil putting 2 Commanders fans' butts in seats. So big shout out to my guy, Phil Ricards, for blessing the mob with 2 tickets to the game on Sunday. But you got Kliff talking about Jaden, and he was asked about the run game, and he said that it's got to be better, right? It's got to be better. And he said he thinks a lot of the issues with the offensive line is paralysis by over-analysis, meaning they're overthinking it. And, one of the things that you hear often in football is guys play faster when their mind is uncluttered, right? Guys slow down when they're thinking and they're not able to play fast. That's why you hear about rookies all the time not playing as fast, or the game, quote unquote, slowing down for players. It allows them to play faster because now they don't have to think as much. He feels like a lot of it is being caused by guys just overthinking the moment, and just not firing off the ball, not being as aggressive and physical. And you heard DQ say this the other day. They rather guys just make mistakes playing fast and physical. We'll figure out, the rest of it later. He's like, backs can cut off of you if you make a mistake or a guy jumps, out of the way of a block. Let the back respond to that. But to do nothing is a problem. To get blown back is a problem. And we've been seeing a lot of that here of late, especially the last 2 weeks in particular. So, but that led to the question being asked, you don't want to be put in a position where your run game is ineffective, but if that happens, are you comfortable that 5 can win you the game? He said, Kliff he didn't want to say, yes, because that's not a world you want to live in. And he made sure he prefaced it by saying, hey, you're going to have to be able to run the ball, late in the season against some of these teams and some of these environments, weather-wise, all of that good stuff. But if 5 is healthy, yeah, he said, yeah, he's capable of winning the game by himself. He pretty much just did it against Philadelphia. He's capable, fully capable. And, you want to steer clear of falling into that trap because, as we know, Kliff's a quarterback at heart. So it's nothing for Kliff to drop back and throw the bitch 45 times. Like he hasn't done it this year, but we're trending in that direction. Jaden just came off of his highest, attempts in a game in his NFL career at 39. Right? He's never hit 40, but obviously we were down big and we were down early, so that kind of got us away from the run game. But Kliff, if it were up to him, he probably would throw the bitch 45 times. So we want to stay where we've been. We want to stay where we're comfortable. So hopefully we don't fall into that trap. But, Kliff has the utmost confidence in Jaden. They asked him a lot of Jaden questions today. And he was like, I'm all for it. Keep them coming. I love talking about this dude. So they asked him about not taking sacks in the game. And he said Jaden did a really good job of avoiding pressure, getting rid of the football. But more importantly, he said, I thought he did a really good job of taking the checkdowns, which I agree with. You haven't really seen him take a lot of checkdowns this year, right? Right in front of him, running back sitting over the ball, things of that nature. He took quite a few of those in this game, and I was really pleased with him doing that. You can't go broke making a profit. And, he checked it down to Brian Robinson Jr. a couple of times. He checked it down to Jeremy McNichols a couple of times. And I like seeing him do that. That's part of the maturation of a quarterback. When it's not there, vertically down the field, hey, a lot of times the reason it's not there is because the defense is dropping back and they're giving you space underneath to take away the passes in the deep to intermediate. So take the short dump down. And he did that. And Kliff said, yeah, he avoided some sacks and he took the check down. And we want to see him continue to grow in that way. Kliff said that they're not looking to put more on him at this point of the season. It's more about, not being bored with doing things the right way. For instance, footwork, right? Making sure the footwork is tight, making sure that you're making the proper reads and you're going through them the right way. And he's like, you can't get bored doing, the right things. And so doing things the right way. So he talked about that. He talked about Jaden's demeanor after the pick. He said, this guy's unflappable. He's like, he said it's one of the traits that he has never seen from a quarterback before. The ability to, or at this level, especially this early in their careers, but the ability to just move on to the next play. He's like, Jaden is so cerebral in the sense that, good or bad, he's ready to move on to the next play. And he said after he threw the pick, you could see in his face, like it wasn't that much different than him throwing a touchdown pass. He came to the sideline and you could look at his face and tell if they got the ball back, they were going to win the game. And he said, sure enough, we got the ball back and he was ready to go. And he went out there and did what he did. And then he talked about Jaden's speed. And he said, one of the things about guys when they, I don't know if it was him or Joe Whitt Jr. I think it might have been Joe Whitt Jr. who said that. When guys don't run a 40 at the combine, well, I might have heard this somewhere else. No. I heard that from Luke Kuechly, who said when guys don't run a 40 at the combine, you don't really know how fast they are. And Jaden's faster than people think. And I think everybody said that. Kliff Kingsbury said that. I think Joe Whitt Jr. says he's faster than people think. And you see it. I think dudes be underestimating his speed sometimes. I think they know now that they played against him how fast he is, but it's still hard, right? You think you got an angle and then you don't. But he's like, he does a phenomenal job of, making guys miss and getting yards there. And so that was pretty much Kliff in a nutshell. He talked about that last play, the touchdown play, and he said it was some universe shit that happened because he said literally they ran that play in practice on Friday and Crowder made some crazy sick one-handed grab. And then he's like, after that, DQ ran a 2-point play because of, the situation. And he said, when are we ever going to run a 2-point play like this? And he said the 2-point play was because the score was, they were up 1 and you wanted to go up 3, right? Like there's no difference between 1 and 2 if you're up, right? There's no difference between 1 and 2. So going for 2 and being up 1 or kicking the extra point and being up 2 is the same thing. You still can get beat with a field goal. So there's no difference between being up 1 or 2. So you go for 2 in that situation to make it 3, because there is a difference. Obviously, if you're up 3, or you can't get beat with a field goal, you can only go to overtime. So he said they had that situation come up in practice. And Kliff was like, when is this shit going to come up? And he said, lo and behold, because a lot of times teams get really spooked when they're up 1. You don't want to throw an interception that gets picked off and it run back for a 2-point conversion and you lose the game. So, he was talking about all of those things. So they, obviously they ran it with McNichols and, he scored the 2-point conversion. We went up 3. And he said it was just crazy because literally it happened that way in practice. And normally that play he said David Blau was, huge in that play. And Blau, came up with that play and it's supposed to go to Ertz. And Ertz was open on that play, by the way. But because of how it went in practice on Friday, it was just natural for Jaden to let it rip to JC Ice in the back of the end zone, and he did. And then the 2-point conversion happened. He said, "Man, that's some universe shit," because it just happened exactly the way that it did in practice. Said, "Shout out to DQ." And then he did talk about David Blau and why his relationship is so good and how he's been so valuable. He said that he had David Blau in Arizona, and he learned the offense in like 4 days and had to start. And him being so close, to his NFL career, and so not that far removed from his career, it's easy for him to relate to players. We kind of talked about that and Jaden talked about that at his presser the other day. So he kind of expound upon that. But Joe Whitt Jr., on the other hand, had a quick in and out press conference. He talked about the defense and Frankie Louvu. He kind of reiterated the things he said about Frankie Louvu, how he has the play style that they want. He said he's kind of a contrast of Bobby Wagner in that, Wagner isn't like this vocal, leader, but he's cool, calm, and collected. Bobby isn't, running around like the Tasmanian devil, but Frankie is. Frankie's all over the place. Frankie's playing with high energy. He's hitting anything that moves. And so he's like, he plays the way that, we want our players to play. And so he talked about that. He talked about Sheldon Day, and he was like, when I first saw him, not my type of guy. He said, I like the bigger, defensive tackles. I don't like the smaller guys, but he said he uses his hands well. He plays, physically like a bigger guy, but he's so quick and he gets into the backfield. And he said, man, he's been outstanding. And I've called him one of the unsung heroes of the defensive line, has Sheldon Day been to me. He talked about Jonathan Allen and his him potentially being back, and he was like, yo, that'd be a great boost for us. I'm excited about what he can potentially bring to the defense, but we'll see what happens if he's able to play. He'll probably be on some sort of a pitch count, but that's a big addition to the defensive line if Jonathan Allen is able to get back in the mix, which I think he's going to be back in there this week. So that will be a welcome addition to this defense. He talked about Michael Penix and playing against a left-handed quarterback and how that may change a few things, not much, but you do have to be more cognizant of where he likes to throw the football versus a right-handed person throwing, quarterback throwing the football. So he's like, that is something that you do have to keep in mind. He gave an example of when he was in Green Bay with Tramon Williams and forgot the other corner he talked about, but he was like, he had, the rookie on the wrong side. He came in and ended up throwing a touchdown pass on the rookie because he forgot to flip sides. I think it was Sam Shields. And he's like, yeah, I forgot to switch sides. And he came in and threw a touchdown pass. Vic did. And he said they started out with a right-handed quarterback. And then Vic came in and threw a touchdown pass on Sam Shields. And he said, I should have flipped Tramon Williams over to Vic's strong side. I didn't. And we gave him a touchdown. And he said, that was my fault. So he said, you do think about stuff like that. So there are some things that you do differently. But he talked about playing against a coordinator that you got a lot of film on and has experience versus one you don't. Zach Robinson, first-year coordinator in Atlanta, came from the Rams. And so he talked about that, and he was like, he's not as Ramsey as some of the other coordinators that have come there. He's kind of got his own style. But, there are that outside inside zone is the core of what they do. But the things they do off of that isn't necessarily a ton of Sean McVay, type principles. And so he did talk about, now that we're this deep into the season, you have enough of a body of work from what the guy's done this year to kind of get a picture of what he wants to do. But you also have to factor in now a new quarterback in Michael Penix that may change some of the things that they ultimately do. But that was the extent really of what Joe Whitt Jr. talked about at his press conference. So now we go behind enemy lines and look at this massive Sunday night football matchup between the Atlanta Falcons and the Washington Commanders. It's a big game for both teams. Obviously, Falcons fighting for their playoff lives. just like the Commanders are, but in a different vein. They're fighting for their division. Meanwhile, the Commanders are just fighting to get in, right? So let's take a look at the stats for both teams in this game. Starting with Washington, total offense, the Commanders are 5th in the NFL, so they're still a top 5 offense at over 373 yards a game. Scoring offense, they're 4th in the NFL, almost at 29 points a game. That 36 piece they put up on the Eagles helped boost that number back up towards 29. It was getting close to 27. But they're a top 5 scoring offense in the NFL. Passing offense, they've been hovering around middle of the pack here at 221 yards per game, right where they need to be. Sacks allowed, 20th. Remember, they were coming off a game in which they gave up 8 sacks, which we all know it wasn't truly 8 sacks, but still, that number was reduced largely. And this is why I talk about with Jaden Daniels. He's such a quick study. He doesn't make a lot of the same mistakes multiple times. He had all those sacks. He ran out of bounds. He wasn't looking to throw the ball on the move. And then, boom, the next week, he's checking it down. He's throwing on the move. He's avoiding pressure. And all of a sudden, we only give up 1 sack on the day. So 20th in the league, sacks-wise, at 39. Rush offense, 3rd in the NFL, despite having a couple of lackluster performances in a row. We're still rushing for over 152 yards a game, almost 153. So we're 3rd in rush offense in the NFL. 3rd down offense, we're 6th currently. I've talked about getting that number at 45%. The Commanders are 9-0 this season when they convert 40% of their 3rd downs or more. They did it again against Philadelphia, 7 of 13 in that game, so over 50%. And so that number went up a little bit. So they're a top 6 3rd down offensive efficiency team. The total defense, 10th in the NFL, so still a top 10 unit total defense-wise. Or actually, I think that number actually is up. I don't know if they were top 10 before the game against Philadelphia. They might have been like 12th or something like that. But now it top 10 at 323 yards per game given up. Scoring defense, they're 18th. I mean, that's really good considering where we came from early in the season, 23.2 points per game. So again, we've been in the 20s most of the year. It held the 30s for a long stretch early in the season. To be under the 20s is pretty significant, not from a points perspective, but from a ranking perspective. Passing defense, we're 4th in the NFL at 185.5 yards given up per game. And again, top 5 pass defense. I know you say what you want about this pass defense, but we find a way. It ain't always pretty, and sometimes we get help from the opposition, like Devontae Smith having to drop. But when it's all said and done, we got the 4th best pass defense in football. Put some respect on those boys' names. Sacks, tied for 10th in the NFL with 39. We find a way to the quarterback. Again, we don't have an elite pass rusher. There isn't a single elite pass rusher on this defense. But what we do as a defense is we get after it, man. Whether it's Louie, whether it's Dante Fowler Jr., Cleveland Farrell stepped up with a big sack. I think we sacked the Eagles 4 or 5 times in the game. Granted, we know it was Kenny Pickett. That's what you do to Kenny Pickett, right? You sack him 4 or 5 times, right? Cleveland Farrell sacked him. Dante Fowler Jr. sacked him. I think there were 2 more sacks in the game. I know Jalen Holmes got him once. So it was a good game, and now we're tied for 10th. So we're almost a top 10 team in sacks this season. Rush defense, obviously 29th. It hasn't been good. And that first quarter, I still have nightmares of the first quarter with Saquon Barkley. But luckily, you don't face him every single week. But Bijan Robinson is just as dangerous as Saquon Barkley is. So I am very nervous. I'm not going to hold you about the Falcons this week in their rush offense against our rush defense, giving up 137 yards per game. 3rd down defense, 16th. Not bad. We're under 40, man. It took us a while to get here, but we're under 40%. Look at that. 38.89. I think it's the first time we've made it under 40% this season on 3rd down defensively, man. We were horrible on 3rd downs, remember? I mean, we were way out there. We were giving up over 60% at the beginning of the season. I think after 4 weeks, we were giving up over 60% on third downs. For us to be under 40, what? That's a dramatic change. Time of possession, we've climbed all the way back up to 10th. We were at one point top 5 time of possession in the NFL. Then at one point we were 22nd, right? We had fallen from, one of the best to turned into one of the worst, and now we're trending back in the right direction. During that 3-game losing streak, we started heading in the wrong direction, and then we were able to grab that time of possession by the horns, turn it around, and here we are now, 10th in time of possession at 30 minutes and 44 seconds. Turnover differential, man, what a difference a week makes. We were +5 just a week ago. Everything was all good just a week ago. We are now +2 after turning it over 5 times and only getting 2 in return in the game against Philadelphia. So that is not very pleasing to the eyes. We need to really create some turnovers and take care of the ball. We had 14 total turnovers going into the game against the Eagles on Sunday, and we turned it over 5 times. That's over a third of the total turnovers we had for the entire season. So we're better than that. And moving forward, we have to be better than that. And you go to the ops in the Atlanta Falcons statistics on the season. Total offense, they're 9th in the NFL at 361 yards per game. So they're a very effective offense. They run it well. They can throw it. They got some receivers that can hurt you. Kyle Pitts, obviously, even though he hasn't been what they thought he was going to be for them, he's still dynamic as a pass catcher. You cannot turn him loose. We've had some issues at times this season with tight ends, so we got to be very mindful of where he is at all times. Scoring offense, 19th in the NFL at 21.8 points. So they're scoring 22 points a game. Not too shabby, not great, but some of that has to do with the struggles of Kirk Cousins. So they've had some games where they lit up the scoreboard, and they're very capable, is what I'm trying to tell you. Pass offense, 6th in the NFL. For all of the struggles of Kirk Cousins this season, and where he was at the end of his season this year before he was benched, they're still 6th at 236.5 yards a game. So that tells you how dynamic they can be. Sacks allowed, they're tied for 9th. Once again, Kirk Cousins didn't take a lot of sacks. Penix won't take a lot of sacks. Now, Cousins wasn't taking a lot of sacks, but he was throwing the ball up for grabs. Penix isn't going to do that. He'll take off and run if he has to. He doesn't want to, but he will if he has to. They've only allowed 29 sacks on the season. They're tied for 9th. Rush offense, they're 12th in the NFL at 124.4 yards per game. They're a really good rush offense. Some of these numbers are a bit misleading because when you don't have a quarterback that scares anybody, you can then load the box to stop the run. That's what they've been doing. So now with Michael Penix back under center, I think that changes them, makes them a more prolific rush offense once again. His legs will also provide them with more yards on the ground as well. So they're a dangerous team, rush offense-wise. Third down offense, they're close to middle of the pack, 15th in the NFL at 38% of their third downs, which is right up our alley. We're giving up 38%. What do you know? So, hey, look at that. If we can just hold them to their average on the season, I feel really good about that. Less than 40, that should be really good. Total defense, they're 13th in the NFL. I think their defense is underrated. I really do. Because for a defense that doesn't get to the quarterback all that often, they're really, really effective still. 13th in the league, giving up 335 yards a game. Scoring defense, they're 19th in the NFL at 23.3 points per game. So we're scoring almost 6 more points than they're giving up. So we need to be really effective scoring the football. I think you can score on this defense, though. If you can not turn it over against them, if you can convert third downs against them, I think you can score on them. They just find a way to not give up a bunch of points like they did against the Chargers. The problem was Kirk Cousins threw, a pick 6, right? And that's how they lost that game. Pass defense, 21st in the NFL, 223 yards per game given up. Again, right up our alley. We're 16th, 15th, 16th in the league, somewhere in there at 220 a game. So right where they're giving up, that's right where we are in terms of passing. Sacks, I talked about this already. They don't get to the quarterback. They're dead last in the NFL in sacks at 26. That's been their Achilles heel this season is they don't get to the quarterback consistently. Rush defense, 12th in the NFL, giving up 112 yards a game. So again, they are a solid defense, man. Really, really solid defense. And I think you're going to see us have to establish the run this week. I don't think this is one of those games where Jaden can just put it on his shoulders. This is, despite them not getting to the quarterback, it's a quality defense. I can't stress that enough. And so I think you got to be able to run the football. And they're not the best, they're not the worst rush defense. I mean, they're 12th in the league right now. So something's got to give. We've got to get back on track, man. And this isn't necessarily the opponent that you look at and say, hey, let's get our shit together on the ground. But I think it's a mandatory thing that happens. Third down defense. They're 28th in the league right now. They're giving up over 44%. That's right up our alley. We're converting at over 45%. They're giving up almost 45% on third downs. They're almost they're fifth worst in the NFL on third downs. So we have to exploit that. These things are right up our alley. They don't get pressure on the quarterback. They don't get stops on third down. Their scoring defense isn't the greatest, so that means they give up points. Their pass defense isn't great. Like, there's some things you can take advantage of here, so take advantage of them, right? Their third down offense isn't great, and neither is their third down defense. And when we convert on third downs, we win football games. Simple as that. So there are some things that we can take advantage of here. And there's some big numbers that make a ton of sense for us. Us being able to get off the field on third downs, coinciding with us being able to convert on third downs, leads to the next stat, time of possession. They're 17th in the NFL. We're over 30 minutes of TOP. They're under 30 minutes, just slightly. I mean, they're literally a second away from 30 minutes. But if we win TOP, we're probably going to win the game. We win third downs on both sides. We win TOP. That's going to lead to scoring opportunities. We're one of the best scoring teams in the NFL. We get opportunities to score. We punch it in the end zone. We did it last week, scored 5 touchdowns, and we're fully capable, right? And then turnover differential, they're -5, but you got to take that with a grain of salt, right? They're tied for 23rd in the NFL because Kirk Cousins was turning over at such an alarming rate. And so you couple Kirk Cousins leading the NFL in interceptions with them not producing a ton of turnovers themselves. When they do, they're big ones. Like, Jesse Bates III had pick 6 this past weekend, right? Matthew Judon had a pick 6 this weekend, right? They had 2 pick 6s. So when they do find a way to create a turnover, it's usually a big one. One of their linebackers earlier this season, when I was watching them play against the Saints, pick 6, right? So when they do make a play defensively, it's a big one. So you got to avoid those mistakes against them. But if you can take care of the ball, they don't mind sharing, right? Now, again, take it with a grain of salt because a lot of that was Kirk Cousins doing. But I'll tell you this much. There's some numbers here to be taken advantage of, all right? Some numbers here to be taken advantage of. And if we can do that, their third down offense, not great. Not great, right? Their scoring defense, not great. Not terrible, but not great. Their pass defense, not great. Their sacks, they're the worst in the NFL. They don't get sacks. That's right up our alley, right? Their third down defense, that's right up our alley. We're one of the best on third downs. They're one of the worst. Take advantage of it. And that leads to time of possession. They're not a great TOP team. We are. So take advantage of it. And then the turnover differential, they're -5. We're +2. This is one of those games where you definitely say, hey, let's see if we can't get our shit together, and let's see if we can't be +2 in the plus-minus category. Let's see if we can't bolster our thing up to +4. Win that battle and ultimately win the game. Put some points up, win the game, right? So the opportunities are there, but you're going to have to take advantage of them. They're not going to give this game away. They need it just as bad as we do, right? They're fighting for their playoff lives just like we are. So we'll know, right? Both teams will know what's at stake going into the game. If Tampa loses earlier in the day, and I know every single one of us Commanders fans will be watching that game with massive intent. You know, it's always fun when you're playing on Sunday or Monday because you get to watch all of the games, ALL, all, not playing at 4 o'clock where you get to watch all the 1 o'clock games and then you're really focused on our game at 4, or 1 o'clock, you're focused on our game and and you can't watch any of the 4 o'clock games. In my case, I don't get to watch any of the 4 o'clock games, but we get to watch all the games. So we get to watch Tampa and Carolina. I'll be watching that one. That'll be on, the big screen on Sunday, right? Like, that's going to be a big one for me. But then you get to watch Eagles Cowboys at 4 o'clock, at 4:25. Like, that's a big game because we might have a chance still at the division. And more importantly, I want the Eagles to have to play their starters. I don't care about the Giants getting a quarterback. Good luck. I don't care about that. I care about the Eagles. We may have to play them in the first round. I want their guys not getting a break. Meanwhile, I want our guys to be able to get a break. And look, it could go both ways, right? If the Eagles beat the Cowboys and they clinch the division and they can rest their guys in week 18, then if we clinch, then we can rest our guys too. But if the Eagles don't clinch and they lose to Dallas and we win, we still would be playing for something, even though we know the Giants aren't going to beat them. You never know, right? We would be playing for something. So it goes both ways. Then you necessarily won't be able to, but you could gauge, look at their game at halftime, and if they're already up 24-3 at halftime, okay, let's take our guys out of the game, right? You could play it that way. So, they're gonna have to score in the score, in the stadium or whatever. But we're a ways away from that. We got to take care of business this week, and we got an opponent that is playing for their playoff lives just like we are. So they're hungry just like we are. They got to have it just like we do. And we got to start a lot better than we did against Philadelphia. That is for sure. You can't come out with that same lackadaisical approach. You can't turn it over as many times as we did and expect to beat anybody. I'm still, or as Joe Davis said, preposterous, right? You can't expect to do that again. They've made an emphasis on running the football. I expect us to be able to run the ball this week. God, I hope we can stop their run game. I need that second through fourth quarter to run defense against Philadelphia on Sunday for 4 quarters. You do that, I think we got a really good shot at beating Atlanta. They run that football. They go play action fake. They get time for, their rookie Michael Penix Jr. to throw the football. It could be a long day, especially with Benjamin St. Juste being out there. So, anyway, I digress. Y'all know what it is. Use the hashtag. Do 'em dirty. DOEMDIRTY. Do 'em dirty. If you want 2 tickets to a chance to win 2 tickets to the Falcons game, do 'em dirty. All right. Do them dirty if you want a chance to win 2 tickets to the Falcons game, courtesy of our guy, Phil Ricards. Big shout out to my guy, Phil, for blessing us with these 2 tickets. And we're going to make sure they get into good hands, Phil. And y'all know what to do. So we'll give these away on Friday's episode. So use the hashtag, do them dirty if you're a member of the mob and you want an opportunity to try to win these 2 tickets to Sunday night's game. In any event, I'm your man, Louie T, signing off. Until next time, I'll see you guys. Enjoy. God bless. Good night.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40.